I'm going to be your travel buddy today as we unpack a visceral, awe-inspiring adventure through the sweeping landscapes of southwest China. We're talking about navigating everything from the dizzying, lung-burning heights of Yubeng village to the thundering, watery depths of Guizhou province. It is a journey of sheer physical endurance, ancient spiritual awakenings, and honestly, some jaw-dropping modern engineering. So grab your gear because this is going to be quite the ride. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever found yourself halfway up a mountain, muscles absolutely screaming, lungs burning, wondering why on earth you voluntarily decided to do this on your vacation? I really want you to imagine the physical pain of an epic hike weighed against that ultimate natural payoff at the top. Our traveler's notes repeatedly bring up this fascinating dynamic. It's that constant, exhausting push and pull between the sheer misery of the ascent and the unadulterated euphoria of actually reaching the destination. And when we talk about the ascent here, we are talking about serious altitude, 3,900 meters. That's the elevation our traveler faced while trekking through remote Tibetan villages like Yubeng and the majestic peaks of Siguniang. At 3,900 meters, you guys, the air is incredibly thin. You're dealing with drifting clouds, ribbons of morning mist, and what our traveler affectionately calls jelly legs. You are practically walking in the sky, and trust me, your body absolutely knows it. Which brings us to a rather alarming statistic, 75%. Just imagine waking up after a restless night of tossing and turning in the freezing mountains, checking your blood oxygen monitor and seeing it has plummeted to 75%, partly because, oops, you forgot to put your CPAP mask back on. There's this visceral panic and exhaustion that comes with high-altitude trekking. But as our traveler points out, despite the sleepless nights and the initial morning panic, your oxygen levels eventually bounce back. The sun comes out, and the undeniable promise of the mountain pulls you right back onto the trail. That right there is the ultimate pain versus payoff dynamic. Section 1. The Call of the Altitude. Let's step fully into Siguniang, often known as the Four Sisters. Now, this destination had eluded our traveler for years. Waking up here is described as being almost like a Zen retreat. The mornings hover in the low single digits, the absolute silence is broken only by distant streams, and you kind of have to keep half an eye open for the black cattle just roaming freely across the Emerald Hills. It's a place that lives entirely by its own rules. But, well, nature's rules can be pretty demanding. Our traveler writes, raincoat on, raincoat off, repeat almost the entire day. That just brilliantly captures the relentless, unpredictable weather and the sheer, brutal physical exertion of a 16-kilometer round-trip trek to the Holy Glacier Lake. You're layering up, stripping down, sweating, shivering, yet the exact moment that hanging glacier comes into view, all of that exhaustion simply dissolves. The struggle is suddenly completely worth it. Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark contrast between the way up and the way down. The uphill battle is this oxygen-deprived, gasping challenge where you can barely even look up from your boots. But the descent? Well, breathing becomes noticeably easier, and you finally have the luxury to actually take in the breathtaking scenery around you. Of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. That constant downhill pounding is literally brutal on the knees and toes. So it's a trade-off, right? You get your breath back, but your joints definitely pay the price. Section 2. Faith Carved in Stone. As we descend from those physical peaks, we shift our focus to the spiritual peaks of this region, because faith has shaped this landscape just as dramatically as the weather has. Take the story of the colossal Leshan giant Buddha, which begins way back in 713 AD. It sits overlooking the meeting point of three incredibly dangerous rivers. A monk named Haitong decided he was going to carve a massive Buddha into the cliffside just to calm the rough waters and protect river travelers. And get this, talk about dedication. When corrupt local officials tried to seize the construction funds, legend says Haitong gouged out his own eyes to prove his unyielding resolve. No way was he letting them take that money. He didn't live to see it finished, but successive generations kept carving. 90 years later, in 803 AD, it was complete. Today, millions of visitors descend these steep, narrow, frankly terrifying cliffside stairways just to pay their respects to this marvel. But, sometimes the quietest stories echo the loudest. Leaving the massive crowds of the giant Buddha behind, our travelers stumbled upon a small cave shrine housing a solitary monk. Local lore tells of a soldier escorting prisoners who, completely overwhelmed by their suffering, just abandoned his worldly duties and retreated into the mountains for a life of quiet cultivation. This is actually the fabled origin of the phrase, lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha at once. It's such an incredibly intimate tale of choosing compassion over duty, and it beautifully contrasts with the massive, imposing grandeur of the stone Buddha nearby. And speaking of grandeur, just imagine taking a cable car high above a sea of clouds to reach Fanjingsan. You step out and you see the red cloud golden summit. We're talking about ancient temples balanced precariously on the very tips of giant rocky thumbs, connected by a dizzying celestial bridge suspended right over a misty chasm. Our traveler, despite a really deep fear of slippery stone steps, braved the near-vertical climb and rewarded us with this imagery. Standing up there, seeing a rainbow literally stretch across the clouds, it truly feels like you're standing at the edge of heaven. Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 3, Roaring Waters of Guizhou. So we are leaving the high cliffs and entering the wet, total sensory overload of Guizhou. This entire province is like a massive green ocean, defined by karst topography, meaning an endless maze of limestone peaks, deep river gorges, and honestly, some of the most thunderous waterways in all of Asia. The absolute crown jewel of Guizhou's waters is the Huangguoshu waterfall. Picture this for a second. You throw on a raincoat and some sandals, and you walk into the slippery cave system directly behind the waterfall, the famous water curtain cave. Our traveler describes this incredibly intimate encounter. You feel the cool spray soaking your face, the roar is literally vibrating in your chest, and you experience the immense awe-inspiring force of water crashing down just inches away from you. And the water just keeps flowing as we head to Libo's Shakikong area, which is this natural oxygen bar of magical ecological abundance. You have the Laya waterfall, which translates to beautiful girl, just drenching the passing tourists. There's the 68-tier waterfall, symbolizing smooth progress and success. You've got the Quigu waterfall plunging into a totally tranquil emerald pool. But my absolute favorite detail, at the Broken Bridge waterfall, visitors will actually line up right under the cascading torrent, enthusiastically recreating the famous Singaporean merlion pose with water spewing all over them. It's a place of pure, childlike joy amid remarkably clear, naturally filtered turquoise waters. Section 4. Liquid History and Local Soul. Stepping off the forest trails and into ancient cobblestone villages, we transition from raw, roaring nature to the human element of Guizhou. As dusk falls over the valley of the Shijiang Chanhu Miao village, thousands of golden lanterns light up simultaneously across traditional, stilted wooden houses that cling dramatically to these steep hillsides. It instantly turns the valley into a sea of floating stars. And what's really wonderful here is how this vibrant tourism engine allows the Miao people, whose history, by the way, has been unwritten for centuries, preserved only through song and embroidery, to thrive sustainably. It lets the younger generations find real success right at home. And then, the sensory experience completely shifts as we travel north to Maotai town. The very moment you arrive, you are hit with this strong, savory aroma that smells exactly like a soy sauce factory. Making Maotai Baiju is basically a complex, high-temperature chemistry experiment. First, baking the sorghum and wheat creates the Maillard reaction. That's the exact same process that browns your bread and coffee. Then there's this wild, open-air yeast frenzy where microbes create a cloud of savory esters. Finally, boiling the alcohol vaporizes all those savory compounds right into the town's atmosphere. So the crucial point is that this town's significance extends way beyond just making liquor. Back in 1935, during the Long March, exhausted Red Army soldiers arrived in this region. Local historical accounts tell of these soldiers using the high-proof Maotai spirit not just for refreshment, but to actually disinfect their severe wounds before making their escape across the river. This historical connection elevated Maotai from a simple regional drink into an enduring symbol of modern China. It perfectly bridges a gritty, revolutionary past with today's booming spirits industry. Section 5. A Modern Mountain Jewel. We are now entering the final act of our travelogue. Guizhou used to have this old proverb: no 3 days of clear sky, no 3 miles of flat land, no one with 3 coins to rub together. But today, that reality has been completely shattered. Sheer human engineering has met ancient karst geology to lift entire communities out of isolation. Guizhou's mega bridges brilliantly illustrate this massive transformation. The province is now affectionately dubbed the World Museum of Bridges. Because of its incredibly rugged geography, engineers couldn't just build roads over the mountains. They had to go through them and above them. Our traveler describes the hyper-connected sensation of driving here. It literally feels like flying. One moment you are speeding through a tunnel carved straight out of a solid limestone mountain, and the very next second you burst out onto a mega bridge suspended hundreds of meters in the air above a roaring river canyon. It is infrastructure on an almost unimaginable scale. As our traveler packed up their bags and descended the mountain one last time, a really lingering thought remained. With all these incredible mega bridges, the rapid development, and the booming tourism fundamentally reshaping the landscape, can the mystic serenity of these ancient, sacred mountains truly be preserved for future generations? It is the ultimate tightrope walk, isn't it? Balancing the desire to share these remote, misty wonders with the world while fiercely protecting the very soul that makes them so special to begin with. It's a really delicate balance and definitely something for all of us to ponder the next time we lace up our hiking boots. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. Keep exploring out there, and I'll see you next time.